ladies and gents. I've built a network with purpose. It's not always about investing in property. It's about creating cash flow. It's about starting businesses. It's about feeding families. It's about living your why, living your purpose.
Standing here today feels like a full circle moment, a moment that honors not just an award I received, but a journey that reshaped my life, my leadership, and my vision of impact.
I don't think that there is a single one event which captures the imagination of an investor like an event like this.
I want to see people gain confidence and actually be able to invest in properties and really gain a meaningful impact in their lives and be able, with confidence, to come out and invest and get more involved in the economy and create opportunities for themselves.
We're so honored. It's such a privilege for us to continue our partnership that we have with SEPN. We are so proud to be able to see some of the achievements that we have had tonight.
Today was so impactful for me as we launched because we saw different levels of winners from the previous Investor of the Year, from beginners, from newcomers, from youth up to big leagues. For me, it's an inspiration to those that were fearful in entering Investor of the Year.
I want to encourage everybody to enter for the 2026 Investor of the Year and just see how your story can be told to the rest of South Africa.
It is phenomenal. The stories that we hear today, and it's so inspiring that this platform helps entrepreneurs to leapfrog into new opportunities.
I encourage you to really come in and invest and really enter into Investor of the Year because it can really change your life. Just go ahead, take the plunge and get in and register.
The stories of the winners has been awesome. It's inspiring, and that's exactly what SEPN is about. We are very proud to be associated with SEPN as a company, and we look forward to many, many more collaborations moving forward.
Since my journey with SEPN, I've been on a growth path. I have met a lot of people who are also willing to invest in my deals. I have had doors open for me, more opportunities, and I just love being a part of the SEPN community.
It was fantastic to listen to the amazing stories that these category winners and contestants shared with all of us. So this is a fantastic journey.
We are so looking forward to 2026 Investor of the Year. We want to see who's going to take away all the prizes and who's going to be the main champion. So please get your entries ready and submit.
Guys, what an evening here at Villa Bianca, the launch of 2026 Investor of the Year. We have partners, sponsors, previous entrants, even future entrants entering. This is such a great initiative for all South Africans in the property space. So I urge you, take that next step into Investor of the Year, build your profile, because remember, credibility meets opportunity. It's not always who you know, it's who knows you.
Where credibility meets opportunity. Ladies and gents, we are all systems go, and we're super excited for the Investor of the Year Awards. As you know, ladies and gents, we have started the Investor of the Year Awards, and we are going towards September, where we will be doing live judging. So, ladies and gents, we are live. Welcome. I do see there's a couple of people that have joined. Let me know where you are watching us from. As I said, ladies and gents, we are in Investor of the Year mode, and we're going towards the big evening. And I will be announcing towards the end of this podcast, I'll be announcing who made it from the previous round. There were 3 people that were judged last week, and we're going to be talking about who made it. But before we get there, ladies and gents, I'm super excited to share with you all that we have started a new podcast for the Investor of the Year known as Beyond the Deal, where, again, we started Investor of the Year. The whole point of Investor of the Year is to celebrate different investors making an impact out there in the market, in the community, not just the deals, the brick and mortar, but to understand and get inspired by real-life South Africans changing the course of their lives using property as a vehicle. And we sometimes tend to lose that. So to highlight stories that inspire other South Africans, that inspired myself, we started a podcast just to talk to other contestants, just to talk to other individuals changing the course of their lives. And joining us for the very first one, ladies and gents, is none other than Mr. Andrew Walker. So Andrew, I know you are out there. Andrew, how's it going, brother?
Awesome.
How's it, Dan? And thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here for the first podcast, and I'm sure I'm going to be one of many interesting stories, backgrounds, what's working, what's not. So yeah, thanks for having me, Dan.
No, thanks for making it, brother. So I think maybe to start us off, ladies and gents, if you are watching, whether you're on YouTube, on Facebook, please use the comment section down below. If you have any specific questions for Anzu, please do let us know. But let's maybe start with an intro, Anzu. I mean, you've been in the property space for a large amount of time. You are the CEO of the SA Property Investors Network, one of the largest networks in the country, talking about property investing. But talk to me about, I want to know a bit more about you, brother. Tell us a bit more about yourself.
Yeah, sure, man, Dan. So as you all know, my name is Andrew Walker, married to Simone Walker.
Over the last
And born and bred in Edenvale, Johannesburg. I got 2 kids now, Logan, who's 15, turning 16 this year, but thinks he's flipping 21 years old. He's a rugby player, he's a model, he's a golfer, which is awesome. And then you got little Skylar, who's the next Bafana soccer player, as you know, Dan. She's full of rubbish, but love her to bits and hard work. So for parents who have 13-year-old daughters who think they rule the roost and rule the house, they'll know what I'm talking about. And Dan, one day you're going to have kids. You're not there yet, so cherish that. So yeah, I've got a happy family at home, and I'm very big into rugby. Unfortunately, I do support the best rugby team in South Africa, the Lions. They're actually doing quite well at the moment. They killed the Sharks last week, and this week Stormers. So hopefully we kill them, and we might finish first on the SA Conference. So Dan, I think about me, born and bred Edenvale. Big into my rugby and big into family and kids, and I've got my UK business, as you know. I've got Sapin, own letting agencies. Love what I do in business. Love always moving forwards and coming up with new ideas. And yeah, I think that's about me. And I guess my version of having a joel or having fun is lighting a bra, having a beer or two, watching the rugby, and just taking it easy, huh?
Oh, awesome, my bro. So you've probably touched upon so many things. So I met Anzu, just for context. My journey with Anzu and the SA Property Investors Network was, I think, 2017. What is it, 8-9 years ago now?
Crazy, yeah.
The time flies, hey? Where, like many people, Anzu, I think there's a whole. I think you're viewed as a thought leader in the network, and I want to maybe start talking about your journey with Sapin, but and your journey in property that happened maybe like way before your journey with Sapin. So talk to me about, so you the CEO of the SA Property Investors Network. Have you always been in property? How did that start? I'd like to understand that journey, hey?
No, absolutely, Dan. So no, I mean, I wasn't born a property investor. I love Monopoly though. Growing up, I loved playing board games, and Monopoly was my favorite. I still remember I used to win Monopoly pretty much all the time. I do like winning, and I just used to buy anything and everything I get my hands on that board. And I used to, and playing the game is one thing. And what happened, Dan, was I became a DJ. I was a sound engineer. I used to DJ parties, 21st, 50th. I bought sound equipment, became a video editor, did corporate gigs. But it was back in 2002 when I actually got my first property investment in the south coast of Durban. And I guess, being young and naive, I just knew property was the way forward. I bought the property, Dan, I guess with a bit of luck, bought with the right timing. And, just 2002 property prices were going up. That property more than tripled in value. I used it for short-term accommodation. I used it for personal use. And it was when I sold that property, Dan, in 2005, that's when the penny just dropped, because I compared the income I made from flipping that property and the income we were making from the property whilst I was holding it, and the capital growth I got versus the time and energy I put into my day job. And by that stage, I was actually working I was a business owner at that stage, and I loved what I did, don't get me wrong, but working very, very hard. And I guess being a sound engineer, like I was building studios, I was marking up bands, it kind of didn't feel like there was much more growth. And when I sold that property and I made the profit, I just knew deep down, almost like there was a calling towards property. And next thing, I came across the Robert Kiyosaki model in London, because we moved to England for what was meant to be 1 year, ended up being 8 years. And the timing felt right. So my wife and I were like, hey, why don't we we bought that property. We've moved to England. We want to move back to South Africa one day, but not with nothing. We want to move back with wealth. So let's get into this. But then before we got going, we thought, well, why don't we learn from people who have done it already? And Dan, that is when my real journey began back in 2005.
Oh, yeah, that's awesome because people just think you went into property, and that's you're born into it. But you mentioned another character that I want to bring forward, your wife Simone. I think she's been personally from the time I've known you. I never see you guys without one another, and you guys work together. And has she always been in the journey with you from sound engineering days? How did you meet Sim actually?
Yeah, definitely. So I met her because she's also from Edenvale, right? So I went to Eden Glen and she went to Eden Vale. Fortunately, I went to the better school, Eden Glen, back in those days. And yeah, we met through her sister. So I used to do Kung Fu martial arts. And so did her sister. And I used to, then I met her sister in martial arts. And we all went to a house one Friday night, all the Kung Fu guys and martial arts guys. And there's Simone. And she was studying for a maths test. And I said to her, why the hell are you studying on a Friday night? You should be going out with us. So then she went out with us. We only went to Basil's house, went around the corner. That's how I met her. And then I saw her. I was in high school, and I had a girlfriend at that stage. And then I met her again at the matric holiday. Hey, Sim, how's it going? And it was then when my high school sweetheart dumped me after 7 years. Say, oh, poor Andrew, shame.
Poor Andrew.
Broke my heart. She killed me. I couldn't survive without my high school sweetheart. And then but I'd met Simone, and then basically what happened was we all met at the Edenvale, called the rugby club. It's a football side, and my friends, her friends, because Edenvale's small, right? Edenvale and Eden Glen, our friends knew each other. Some of my friends were dating her friends, and my best mate was having a 21st. And he was like, do you want to bring a partner? I said, I don't have a partner. And then Simone was there. I was like, oh, would you like to be my partner at this 21st? And she kind of said yes, but she wasn't keen because she thought she was the rebound girl. And anyways, I convinced her to come with me, and the rest was history. Then we got together, we started dating, and within 2 years, she got her degree. And she said, hey, I've done my 4 years for Wits University, 1 year for government. I'm going to the UK with or without you. And I was like, geez, thanks, love. And, I had to make a decision. Do I say no and I keep doing my sound engineering, or do I pack everything up and I go? And I decided to go and give it a go. And the rest was history, Dan.
Hectic. So now we're in the UK, right? You've left your sound engineering gig. You bought this property, you sold it, you made so much money. You're in the UK, first years in the UK. Talk to me about what are you doing? Because Sim is there for her job, right? What are you doing during the time?
Yeah, so I got a job in sound engineering very quickly because that's all I knew. And I worked for a company, I forgot what they're called now, but we used to do the shopping center messages. So I used to fly to Scotland, Ireland. I'd go to the shopping center, I'd go to the control room, and I would set up the messaging. I would set up the music through old school computer days. I would then go back to London. So I worked in London. I would do the voiceovers. I'd record voiceovers, do jingles. And we used to manage. So, when you walk into Eastgate shopping center and you can hear the music and the messages, that was me in England. But at the same time, so Simone had a job, I had a job, but we were both we shared the same goal and vision. Like, what can we do? How can we create more money? How can we start businesses? So we both got into network marketing, a company called Amway in London. They're in South Africa as well. And we learned a hell of a lot about sales. We learned a hell of a lot about the power of networks. And we did Amway for a few years. And we learned a hell of a lot from that business. At the same time, I was on the internet looking for opportunities. I was attending any free conference I could go to, Dan, stocks and shares, entrepreneurship, started meeting people. I was in like the zone of going, oh my gosh, I started realizing that building a business in England was possible. And it was at that time we were attending seminars and webinars. I was in the London Tube going from Edgware down to Barbican. And it said there, Robert Kiyosaki 2-hour free property seminar at the Lloyd's Cricket Ground. And I said to my wife, not my wife, and I said to someone, hey, let's just go have a look. Let's just go see what it's about. And I think what hooked me, Dan, was that the people presenting were South Africans talking about how they came from South Africa. And they were doing stuff in England. I was like, but what the hell? If they can do it, I can do it. And that's kind of what happened when we got to. So we we both continue in our jobs to earn a salary, to pay the bills, pay the expenses. And that's when we started investing in our education. We got ourselves a coach and mentor. We started, and we were young, right? We were 25, 26 years old. We had to go into debt to do it at that stage of our journey. And it was fun, Dan, because we were meeting new people. We never had the kids. So we were traveling. We went to Bali, we went to Wales, went to Ireland, went to Scotland, went to Portugal, went to Spain. We went away with some mates, and we went to the Springbok game in Wales, Cardiff Stadium. It was a joy. It was fun. Dino was there. My mates were there. Jose was there. But at the same time, that's when I was like, have fun. Like, let's have fun, but let's build a business. Let's build something that when we come back to South Africa, we still earning pounds.
Was that always the goal, though, to come back to South Africa?
Yeah, I think we both knew that we would move back at some point. We kind of knew it deep down. When it got to the third, fourth year, we were loving it. And we started doubting, going, do we actually want to go back home? Do we want to go to South Africa? Because things were working well. We never had the kids yet. And I was actually going, do you know what? I could actually live here. I felt like I could live there. It was only when we had the kids. And oh my gosh, living in England with babies and kids, and now Logan, now it's raining every day, but now Logan wants to go play outside. Now you got to put these boots and 3 raincoats and 5 sets of jeans and hoodies. Then we take him to the park and he wants to slide down the slide, but it's wet and it's icy. And then he starts crying. And I was like, nah, like, I'm done with this weather. I'm done with this. You see, Dan, when you have kids, that's the problem. When you got no kids, you're free. When you have kids, then it's like, then I thought to myself, like, we've got these kids. And the biggest issue was Logan started getting a Pommy accent. And I was like, screw that. I ain't got no Pommies in my family, especially when it comes to rugby. So, and that's the truth. The reason we came back, I was like, no, I don't want my kids to grow up in England. I want them to grow up in South Africa. I want them to go to Jeppe. My boys at Jeppe, that brotherhood you get from the boys' schools in South Africa. And I wanted them to, and then I remember the first night we came back, it was February the 2nd or something in 2013. Logan, for the first time, walked on grass properly with no shoes. And he freaked out. So he was wearing all his warm gear because we came from winter in England, February, summer for us. It was 11 o'clock at night, and we put him on the grass, and he actually freaked out because he wasn't used to walking on grass. And I thought, like, what a lifestyle. You know what I mean? And that's why we came back. But then, Dan, then I was traveling back to England often. I'd go back for like a month, go back for 3 weeks. And I've been traveling back for the last, 15 years or something, huh? It's crazy.
Oh, geez, that's crazy. But let's take a step back, my bro. So you in England by the tube, there's a 2-hour workshop. Because I'm gonna now start talking about when the property bug bit you, and when you started actually building businesses around the property sector. So you're in the tube, you attend a networking event in England. You're with Simone at the time. Talk to me about that journey and the coaching and the actual building of the businesses, because I just want to understand that process.
So when I went to 3-hour seminar, I mean, look, Dan, there's only so much you're going to learn in 2 hours, right? It was more the concept. So very similar to our South African model. We also run 2-hour free seminars in South Africa all across, and it gives you a taster for, do you have the property bug? Do you want the property bug? And I ended up on a 3-day property workshop in London with Kevin Green as my speaker. And they were teaching Robert Kiyosaki philosophies of property investing. And they started breaking things down like student accommodation and bridging finance and development and buy to let. And basically, Dan, what they did, what we do for investors in South Africa is we open up a whole new world, because most people just know about a house or an apartment or a flat. And you get a bond, you buy it, and you pay it off over 10 years. And what this did is it opened up my mindset to go, this opportunity, the business I've been looking for, is in property, because what they said that we can, and they are right, is the sky's the limit. As long as you're always finding deals, finding finance, you can buy as many as you want, you can do what you want. And we just, both myself and my wife were like, and Simone were like, you know what, let's just give it a go. And nothing ventured, nothing gained. So we signed up for almost like it was like a 1 or 2 year journey with them, where we got a mentor, Matthew Snedden. And how they worked with their mentorships, Dan, is you choose an area in England. We chose Grimsby. Grimsby was affordable. It's a great place to start your investment journey. So we lived in London, about 3 hours drive from Grimsby. And what happened was we drove to Grimsby with our mentor, and for 2 or 3 days, we drove around the area. We viewed properties, we put offers in, we walked off the street, and we got ourselves an attorney. That attorney is still my attorney now, John Stones. I've known this oak now for I don't know how many years, over 20 years I've known him. He's still doing all my work in England. And from that mentorship, we put 2 offers in, and I got 2 offers accepted, which I absolutely freaked out about because now I'm buying 2 houses. Fortunately, one fell through because there's something happened with the bridging finance and it fell through. But actually, in hindsight, there's one of the quite a rough area. And as it was happening, Dan, as this mentor was helping me, but hey, Matt, like, what do I do next? Okay, do this next. Okay, Matt, the attorneys came back with, what should I say on the email? Okay, say this on the email. And I guess that's especially because we were beginners. And I learned the power of mentorship, the power of coaching, the power of working with someone that's ahead of you. So he was from Australia, also came to England. I was from South Africa, came to England. He had just done his training a few years before me and got success. And then he was taking me along the path that he went along. And he literally introduced me to everyone, to JV partners, introduced me to lenders, introduced me to, well, we met the attorneys together. And then through that, we were living in London, so they ran networking events. Like, you know how Sapin at the Asset Property Investors Network, we run network for this evening, for example. There's a networking event. We're always running networking events. And Matthew said, you know, your network is your net worth. The more people you meet, the more deals you come across, the more money you're going to raise. So make sure you network. Make sure you're doing coffee sessions every single week. And that's what I did then. All I did was I said, well, Matthew, you tell me what to do. Tell me to jump. I'll ask you how. Where do you want me to go? He says, just go network in London, go meet new people and start, you know, because that could be future JV partners. And that's exactly what I did. Simone and I, every single week, we'd find a networking event and then network, and we'd go meet people. We'd speak to them. What are you working on? What's working? What's not? As this was happening, we're busy buying our first few properties in Grimsby. And that's when we just, you know how things feel right in your heart. And we just knew we're 25, 26 now, going on 27, 2007, sorry, while we were 26, 27 years old. And that's when things started rocking and rolling.
And like, I think just to bring things to context, because it wasn't easy, right? During this entire time. So a young couple in the UK don't have bucket loads of money saved up, because these courses and training, you have to spend some money on it, hey? And like, because I've spent a bit of time with you, you obviously shared what you guys had to do. I think the whole point of this podcast is just to go beyond the actual numbers and deals, but just to understand the investors. Has there ever been, what difficulties, what in your time in the UK, would you say you had to face to actually start doing these deals? I mean, unless it was easy for you during this entire time and you could put food on the table. Do you want to talk to me about like the greater details? You in the UK, so you find coaching,
I think before I bought the first deal, I started sourcing properties. You know, we go find investment deals, you charge a fee for sourcing the property onto someone else. That was flipping challenging in the beginning, because I think I spent 6 months trying to source a property on, and I just couldn't get it right. I got the values wrong, the market values. I got something wrong. My offers weren't cheeky enough. They weren't low enough. And it was very frustrating, to a point where I almost gave up before I even bought the first property.
Crazy.
And I remember myself and Anthony, when we had a client from Ireland, she agreed to buy 6 deals from us. And we had packaged these 6 deals, and we looked at the sourcing fee. I still remember Anthony, my business partner, he was jumping on the bed, going like, oh my God, we're going to make so much money. And next thing, the valuers came out to value, and they undervalued what we said they would be worth. And all 6 fell through, and the client got cross with us. And I just thought, like, is it even worth doing this? Like, you know, we put so much time and energy. And I see it happening in Sapin, people trying to source properties. You know, there's so many disappointments, there's so many no's, and you think you're going to make that money from the deal, and then something just falls flat.
And can I ask, at this point, are you full-time in property? Do you still have your...
No, so I was full-time sound engineer, Dan. So if you take a 12-month span, I was driving up to Grimsby every weekend. So working Monday to Friday. And then weekends, I would drive up with my business partner, Anthony, Saturday and Sunday, and drive back 3 hours there, 3 hours back. What then happened, Dan, is I negotiated with my boss to work part-time. So I said, look, about 3, 4, 5 months in, I couldn't keep traveling. It's too much for 2 days. So what I did, Dan, is as this was happening, I said, I can only work Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So then I'd go up on a Friday. Or in some cases, I'd go down on a Monday and come back on a Tuesday. So at least at the weekend with Simone. So that extra 2 days in the week to work. And then what happened, Dan, is I went part-time and I became a freelancer. So I started doing ad hoc hours. So full-time to part-time to a freelancer. It happened over the course of a year as I got more into it, as I was viewing more properties. And then, of course, in that first year, that's when the first deal landed. That's when I did my very first investment deal with Matthew's help. It was 1 James Street. And Dan, I must say, the very first deal I did was flipping easy. Everything went according to plan. I bought it for £48,000. I used my credit card, which we call an investment card, for my buying costs. The government gave me £10,000 towards the renovation. The builder offered to finance the rest for me. I was like, sweet, I'm not paying for any renovations. So now the bridging finance company gave me, I think it was 70% of what the property is going to be worth. So I put no deposit down. So I get 48K from the lender, £48,000. Use my credit card to pay John Stones his fees and the valuation fee of 500 and say 600 or whatever. So call it £1,000. Managed to negotiate for the renovation to get renovated. And then I got a value at what I thought I'd get a valued at, which was the true market value. And then I pulled all the money out the deal. And the very first deal was the easiest deal thing I've ever done in my life. Not the only deal, I've had other deals. So to answer your question, I've had some deals that went according to clockwork. They gave me a checklist and said, do this, 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 and this. Follow the order. Call your coach. Don't try to do things yourself. Just bounce everything off your coach, which I did do, Dan. And A1 happy. And then, of course, there were deals that didn't go according to plan. Like I remember and you know what the deals that didn't go according to plan were always deals that I was pressurized in going into. Gut feeling was wrong, but there was pressure from the owner. There's pressure from business partners. I didn't feel comfortable, but I still went ahead. Those are the deals that just didn't go ahead. Didn't go well. For example, the 2 big guest houses. I say big guest houses. They were 12-bedroom properties in Cleethorpes on a seafront. But the bars were there. The pubs were there. They're probably worth about £250,000 a piece across the road. Someone actually moved into one of the rooms to go, well, why don't we live there and we can live rent-free because we're still young, right? And we're exploring. And it was kind of fun at the time. And we met contractors from all over, Scotland, Ireland, Wales. The people that you met were cool. And I also wanted to get hands-on experience managing guest houses and managing utilities, the gas, the electricity, the water, the internet, getting used to managing it. But the mistake I made was, I remember, and I still want to say that my attorney also made a mistake because I believe he made a mistake, but ultimately the landlord takes the responsibility. When we signed the 10-year lease, because it's a 10-year lease, it was what's called a lease option, which is like a rent to buy. So I'm going to rent it from the landlord with the option of buying it at the end. And in commercial rentals, you always have a break clause. And I remember having a break clause of 3 years and saying to the attorney, I need to know that I need an exit because my coach said, make sure you have an exit. You've got to give it a few years, but if it doesn't work, you've got to get out the deal. Long story short, 3 years comes. That's when the recession hits hard. Now the guest house wasn't earning £110 per room per week. Now I'm working with the local market, which was more £70, £80. Still got through, could still pay the bills, but no profit because the market had shifted drastically because of the recession in 2007, 2008. So no problem, there's a break clause. To then realize, no, there's no break clause. Nothing's been signed off. But it is. I told you I went to 3 year, but I didn't check, so it's my fault as well. Because you take for granted when you give an instruction, it gets done. So Dan, a long story short, I think in year 7 or something like that, I had to buy myself out of that lease. And could I have been more hardball with the owner? Perhaps. Should I have checked things with my attorney more? Yes. Could you argue the attorney should have protected me? Yes. So there's a lot of things, like a lot of lessons looking back to go, don't just take for granted. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't lie with the attorney, it lies with me. It's my property. I could have double checked John State because the pressure I had, his name is Dave Williamson. No, you must move in next week. I'll give you 2 weeks free. He pushed and pushed. And I was like, to me, there was no rush to move in. But The problem is because you pushed me so hard, I didn't actually read the contract properly. I didn't check with John
Yeah.
Stones.
Didn't
I
do the
just
due
said,
diligence.
didn't do my due diligence. I should. How it should have been, no, Dave. No, basically, screw you. But I'll move in when I move in. Once I'm happy with the lease, and John's giving me the right advice, because I did sit with John, but there was no chance to sit with John because Thursday was there, and Dave's like, "No, you must move in Friday, or the deal's off." But actually, he was just blushing. But I was young. I think I was 26, 27. I was still very young. I was naive. I've never done a deal like this. I just thought, like, screw it, let's do it, let's take the risk. And don't get me wrong, I learned a hell of a lot in hospitality. I learned a lot about management. I learned a lot about saying no. I learned about evicting. I had a drug addict in one of my rooms going, "Oh my God, how do I get rid of this guy?" I was put in very uncomfortable positions. Would I do it again? Absolutely not. But same as you, Dan, when you've slept at properties with the properties you flip, you got to live property, breathe property, eat property. You've got to be able to wear that shirt. But as that was happening, Dan, I was building the portfolio. I went from one property to two. I think I got to like 25 houses very quickly through joint
Is this
ventures.
joint ventures, huh? I was going to
Yeah,
ask.
yeah. And not all joint ventures, when I could buy my own property. So, in fact, one James Street I bought myself. But then, as we teach at Sappin, you will come across deals where you can't buy yourself because your bond affordability is taken up, or your cash is taken up, or not every deal you can do yourself. And that's when I started doing joint ventures. And I did a lot where I would go out, I would find the deal. These were typical 3-bedroom properties, 3 beds, 2 reception rooms. You're talking between your £40,000 to £80,000. We'd buy it, we'd renovate it, we'd refinance it. We call that the BRR, as you know, Dan. We teach it in our 2-day workshops: buy, renovate, rent, refinance, repeat. And that's what I learned 20 years ago. That's what I still teach to this day. And Dan, I bought the first. And to be fair, with all those buy-to-lets, everything was actually, because it's called the cookie cutter system. It did actually become easy. To be honest, it was easy. The difficult parts were the shareholders, the business partners. The business partners, when you go into business with someone and then all of a sudden they've got different ideas, all of a sudden their attitudes change. I've had a business partner die on me in England. Next thing, I've got the kids, dealing with the kids that didn't understand anything. They weren't part of my conversations with the owners. And they were lovely owners. We used to jawl together in Grimsby. They took me to Ireland. We had jawls. We were like close. And then, unfortunately, old age. I was business partners, I think 15 years. They passed away. And next thing, the kids came on board and they just gave me hell, Dan. And they gave me hell. They didn't trust me. And even though I'd actually put way more money in than what they had put in, because they were sick and poorly. And you know my story, Dan, but to share, be very careful who you go into business with. And when you go into business with someone, so Dan, if I go into business with you, you've got to think, but if Andrew passes, who do you deal with? And vice versa. So I learned all those, not just about the property itself was ticking over, but it was the shareholders, the business partners. So, for a lesson for everyone getting into property, I was with someone early on talking about getting into business and doing and I'm getting all these shareholders to buy into property. It sounds good on paper, it sounds good in conversation, but the more people you have involved in a property transaction, I can guarantee you 1,000,000%, the more headaches you're going to have. If you're happy with the headaches, then that's absolutely fine.
100%. Geez, there's quite a lot to unpack. So you're going into property, part-time working as a sound engineer. Sim is working as well. You've built up this entire portfolio through hectic hard work, and you are putting in hours, networking events, meeting business partners, and all of this. And then you guys make the decision to leave England. And I think we spoke about that earlier. How's Sim's headspace during that time? Is she in alignment? Is she still working? Then does she stop working? What's the conversation there?
Yeah, and I think that was the tough part as well. And just before I answer that, just to add on to that, Dan, because it'll tie in with it, is when I was building the portfolio, I was also building other people's portfolios. So I was sourcing at any given time, Dan. I probably had between 8 to 10 properties that were going through all the time. So I was doing a lot of private marketing, negotiating. I was doing portfolios. So I was very heavily involved full time in property sourcing. And then I would cherry pick deals that I could do with my business partners. at any given time, Dan, I was then doing renovations. So I think the most, at one point, I was renovating over 20 properties at once. I had 2 or 3 Eastern European teams going. So when I say I was living, eating property 7 days a week, working evenings, but I loved it. I did it because I wanted to do it. And I built a very big network to a point then where I started educating other people. I started a mini SAPN in England. So my business partner, Dave, and I, we started doing seminars in Birmingham, in London. We were asked to go to
Is this
talks.
Dave McGlashan?
No, Dave Portis. He's from a local guy, Dave Portis in Birmingham, England. And because the thing is, when you become good at what you do and you eat and you breathe it, people want you to teach it. So we started coaching people in England, going, if you want to do what Andrew Walker and Dave Portis are doing, come to a one-day workshop, and then we'll just show them what we're doing because it was lucrative. We literally made hundreds of thousands of pounds sourcing, renovating. It was hard work, but we did it. And then, as you know, with Simone, she was working for the NHS, but very quickly she came on board with us and she helped us build the letting agency. So she was dealing with the rent arrears.
Job with the NHS, huh?
Yeah, so she was full-time NHS in Hull, and she got to a point where it was like, nah, she wanted to jump ship and come work with myself. And it was very difficult. Myself and Simone, we clashed all the time because Andrew was the boss, and you can't tell Simone what to do. So we clashed a lot of times, and it's difficult because we were like renting an office space, and she would shout at me, and just Simone, she doesn't hold back. And it was very difficult, but we've obviously learned to work with each other because I am right most of the time, and hopefully she's not listening to this. And so we enjoyed it. The cool thing is that the reason I love property and the networking is we met people from New Zealand, from America, from England, we went on the canal boats in England. One of my clients, David Hall from Southampton, invited us for like a few days on a boat cruise. And so those type of experiences, and we loved it. It was when we had the kids was the problem, because now there's no granny and grandpa, now there's no cousins, now all the friends in London had come back to South Africa, Dubai, they had moved, and it actually became lonely. And I think Simone got a bit of depression because now she's at home all day with Logan. I was still going to London, I was still having some drinks, I was still networking, I was still around, I was out and about, but Simone was literally stuck at home with Logan. Now you imagine it was raining every day, it's miserable, and Simone got fed up. I also thought, me trying to, I wanted to braai on Saturday, and I literally braaied in the snow, put my beer in the snow, couldn't even talk to Simone because she's inside looking after Logan. And that's when you realize, that's when Simone was like, look, Drew, this just isn't working anymore. She wasn't happy. I was happy. We were both happy with the business. We were both happy with that kind of, with everything else, but we couldn't really travel because we've got a newborn. It's difficult to travel with the newborn. And that's when Simone said, like, yeah, let's just go back, So, and what happened in 2012, we came back. The Bulls were playing, the Lions weren't playing. They've been relegated back in those days in 2012. And it was a Saturday afternoon. It was hot. I was with Dino. I was with a very famous boxer. I forgot his name now, in South Africa. And I stood there, and the Bulls came out, and the stadium cheered. And I thought to myself, what the hell am I doing in England? And I looked at Loftus, and I was like, screw that. I want to be back home. Like that homesick feeling you get. Within 12 months, Simone went back to England. I said, I didn't give a crap. We spoke to my business partners. We spoke to our staff, because we still do have staff. And it was difficult. It was a shock. People were like, geez, Andrew, I thought you were going to be here forever. So after 7 years, we decided at the end of the 8th year, it's time to come home. And that's what happened, eh?
Hectic. So that's quite crazy. So in terms of timelines, you go to England, you guys are young, you don't have much money, you bootstrap your way through the property journey, right? Almost quit, you build a positive cash flow portfolio with business partners, you then build a letting agency to sort of complement the two businesses while you're going to just control the whole market. Then you decide to come back to South Africa. So you guys are back now. What's next? What's next after you came back?
Yeah, so it was quite confusing because I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, if I wanted to keep focusing on the UK or do I get stuck into property in South Africa. So initially I just focused on UK. So nothing, I didn't get involved in South African property, but I kept asking myself, what should I do? And at a business networking event with I forgot what it's called, that networking events in business. I met a couple from Keller Williams. And they said, oh, no, they're an estate agent. Oh, you're in property and you've been in property for a long time in England. Well, why don't you join our team at Keller Williams? I was like, oh, yeah, why not? And so I went to meet Dion Tromp, the principal here in Edenvale of Keller Williams. And this was, 2013, eh? And I started getting into property in South Africa. And what had happened, Dan, is, my story in England, how I joined a networking business and I got a coach. That same company went global. They came to South Africa. They then heard I moved back to South Africa. So, hey, Andrew, would you like to become a testimonial? Just come share the reason why you did the coaching and the training in the UK, and that's what I did. So I started doing testimonials for them. And at this stage, I'm still going to the UK. I'm coming back. Everything's property full time. I didn't get any job. I didn't do anything else but the UK property. And then I slowly got involved with a training company. And through that, I started meeting clients and I started coaching individuals, Dan. Simone worked with me from the beginning. So in fact, she worked for her dad in the printing business, helping with the admin and accounts for the first few years, whilst I got stuck into the property side of things. Here in South Africa, I started flipping properties. So I started doing back-to-back deals. I started doing deals through Remax. I was buying properties, renovating, selling. And I did quite a lot of those deals in South Africa whilst I was still buying properties in the UK. And from 2014, you could say 2015, that company was coming to South Africa aggressively. Myself and Simone basically ran that business from South Africa, from Joburg for them. We built a coaching division, a training division for them. It wasn't our business, it was their business from London. And I enjoyed it. I loved it, the flexibility of time. I kept running my business. I was traveling the country. I was talking whilst I was flipping properties in South Africa and whilst I was then still investing in England. So then I started taking some money, South African rands, and other investors in South Africa that wanted to invest in the UK. I started helping them invest in the UK because I've got the network, I've got the contacts, I've got the attorneys, I've got the finance brokers, I've got the letting agents. I had everything they needed. And I guess that's where Sapin, and then, with regards to Sapin was happening in the background, and small. The reason Sapin originally existed is that it's actually called Freedom Through Property. That's what Sapin was. It was called Freedom Through Property with Warren Brisser. And the reason why it started was never for the purpose it is now. It was actually for myself and Warren to meet JV partners, to do more deals, to raise money, to find deals for ourselves. But we very quickly picked up that, hey, listen, there's nothing else that exists like what we're doing. But that was a struggle, Dan. We bootstrapped that again. We didn't put, well, yes, we put our own money in, but to try to get bums on seats, to try to get people to buy product, to try to get it to self-fund itself, it was a slog. I still remember my mom used to cook the chicken for us. We'd go to a networking event. My mom would make the food for it. I would take the food. I put chicken pieces out and biscuits out, and I would be the coordinator, the host, like when you bootstrap, if anyone wants to know how to bootstrap anything, myself and Warren, we were bootstrapping this thing. We weren't making money for the first few years, so we were losing money the first few years. Put it this way, we're experimenting. We're trying, maybe we should do free events. Maybe we should charge for events. And it got to a point, I think 2017. So now we're in Soweto, now we're in Cape Town, now we're in Joburg, but we still weren't making money. But we were meeting business partners. We were still doing deals. We're very active with deals. And I said to Warren, is it even worth continuing the SA Property Investors Sapin? Warren, we're putting money into this thing. It's been a few years. We're not seeing a big return. And I kind of went through a lump going, do I need to do this? Do I want to do this? And I think that's what happens in life. You go through ups, you go through downs, and it's very easy just to quit. And Warren said something that day that okay, cool, Warren, let's just keep it going. And thank God I kept it going, because if I had to quit that day, Dan, we wouldn't be on this call. Investor of the Year wouldn't exist. Our coaching packages, our online courses wouldn't exist. Because as you know, through Sapin, we've changed thousands of lives. And then from I'll probably say, Dan, only from 2018 did we start pushing Sapin aggressively, because that's when Investor of the Year came. That's when we brought membership levels out and all of that. So it was a very hectic journey though to get this business off the ground.
Crazy, hey? So 2013, you come back, you start Sapin, and nothing's working, right? Nothing is working.
I was confused what to do.
And who knows? In looking back, that's when I think you can connect all the dots. And I think that in itself is why we're starting this podcast, because there could be investors with businesses in the property space. They're looking to quit, because they buy property, they do a multi-let, they're not getting any returns. I said it certainly have been there, but then you build the largest network in South Africa, which has touched, I think, thousands and thousands of lives, my life being included, right? I joined, for those who do not know, I joined Anzu 9 years ago, young 18-year-old knowing nothing in property, hey? And I've been able to grow a portfolio and build a business. It has been hard. So 2018 comes, you start Investor of the Year now. So now Sapin, is it at this point, is Sapin profitable? Are you paying yourself a salary? I know you're still running your UK business. You've not sold it, and your portfolio in the UK. 2018, you start Investor of the Year. Is that the year Absa Bank came on board as well?
Yeah, so 2018, we ran an awesome event at Soweto where we launched our first membership level, 99 Rand. Rally Mampule was there, if you remember, Dan. He sponsored a whole bunch of the youth. And no, I wasn't making money from the business, because when you're a new business, early business, you can't take money out the business. You got to keep putting it back in until it becomes self-sustainable, until it becomes profitable, until you can actually afford. So at that stage, I was still working with that other UK company, the London company, still doing speaking. I was helping with the coaching side of things, helping other South Africans invest in property here and overseas. So that's what I was still doing. And kept the UK business going very aggressively, going over every 3-4 times a year. And I loved that, because I was at that point, I was going to Glasgow. I was still very much into sourcing nationwide now. So I had like sourcing agents across the UK, which was awesome. And then, I met Miguel Martins, as you know, Miguel from Absa Home Loans. He's not there anymore. And he said, look, what you got? And he met me at the Bryanston Country Club. That's where we're running our event tonight. And he said, look, I work for Absa Home Loans. I love what you're saying. We must connect. And we connected. And I said, well, look, we've got this Investor of the Year coming up. Why don't you guys get behind it? It's a great initiative. And I put a proposal together, and Absa said yes. And I was like, oh my gosh, I've just landed Absa. And I thought that was a once-off thing. And from that point, Dan, that's when 2019 came. And that's when the relationship with Absa, thanks to Miguel as well, that's when things started getting a bit more serious. That's when we started pushing memberships. That's when we started thinking, okay, what do we do with the business? And that's when things started rocketing for SAP in 2019. We ran Investor of the Year again. At that point, that was 2019, because that was Melrose Arch, where we had the Jaguars, the Porsches, and we had the fancy cars, and it was a great event. And yeah, I'd say that's what gave us the momentum going into 2020. So now, and that's when the UK company pulled out, and that's when we stepped in, and that's when the Property Academy was born. That's when we started putting on the workshops. That's when we started pushing SAPN, and we had big plans for 2020. And then March came and lockdown happened, and oh my gosh, being an events business in the property space, we had to pivot very, very quickly, hey?
And that in its own, I think what happened in COVID is quite inspirational. But because of time, we can probably sit here for another hour talking about many other lessons. So we're going to fast forward a few years. So SAPN, then you go into business, and you're taking a part of taking SAPN forward is making SAPN a corporate. So that in itself, and square feet days, and making it like that in itself, taking SAPN to the next level was quite inspirational. And there are many lessons you did learn from that. Talk to me about that journey. Hey? So now you're bootstrapping this whole business. You're pumping your own cash to pay staff, to get to the next month, as most entrepreneurs would know about it. That year, now you've got a big partner behind you as SAPN, and you want to take SAPN to the next level. Talk to me about how excited you were during that entire process as well.
Yeah, I mean, look, we are one of the biggest funders backing us. It was all around technology and scalability. But the problem was, it was exciting because we had this backer. They're going to put millions and millions and millions of rands in for shareholding, which I was cool with. And the idea was that we're going to put tech solutions for our members. But, I'm going to use the word but, with that excitement, without realizing what was coming. Now we're dealing with, now there's regular board meetings. Now there's more shareholders. Now there's more pressure. Now there's more where's this, where's that. Now we're trying to amalgamate all these different companies into one. It was flipping stressful, Dan. It was hectic. It was stressful. It was fun at the same time. But I just, looking back, it didn't actually make sense. But at the time, making the decision, that made sense only because of lack of experience. And that happened, I don't know when that was. There was it like 2021 to maybe 2023, maybe around that time. That's when that period of my life happened. Then I can't tell you how much I learned about that. About that phase of my life of getting involved with tech businesses, and it never ever happened for SAP. We never built the tech platforms. We burnt that money, Dan. That 5 bar, 7 bar got burnt like this. When the money is there, it's easy to spend, right? And that's where you're, as a CEO, as a business owner, you got to be on top of that. The income and expenses like you cannot believe. But it's all about what I learned out of it, and coming out of it in 2023, 2024. The lessons I learned, I just applied, and I really focused on what is that clients need, what do they want, and right now, Dan, busy looking at tech solutions again. Difference is I'm not relying on someone else. Again, SAP and self-funding itself. We're going to be building tech solutions for our coaching clients, from things like deal calculators to whatever the case might be, but so. But the thing is that what you got to realize is with any business, as you hit that milestone, as you get success, you then test new things. I'm always testing new things. I'm testing new markets. I'm throwing money at things. You've got to take risks. So like I'm just taking risks all the time, but they're calculated risks, and they're risks I can afford to take. So as a business, and that's the thing with business owners, is often they take risks, they fail, but they can't afford. Don't take risks that you can't afford not to. Don't take a risk if you can't afford to take the risk, if that makes sense.
Makes sense.
Yeah, and SAP's at a point where now, like, we're scaling down, we're going into townships, as you know, we're focusing a lot more on commercial and developments and warehousing and industrial, and we're working, and within SAP, where it just used to be one clientele. Now we have our beginners, we have our intermediate, we have our big leagues, we have different divisions, different type of networking for different investors. We have SAP and Women, we have SAP and Youth that you helped me launch back in the day, and so SAP is definitely playing a big role in the South African property space, with empowerment, with education, with mitigating risks, with giving hope to property investors. And that's what I want to continue doing.
Geez, that's beautiful, hey? So when we look at like your entire journey from the UK in South Africa with SAP and with Let's and your investment company, full of ups and downs, right? Where 1 minute nothing seems to be working and there's turmoil, and you bootstrap yourself through the hectic moments, and then there's a turn of good luck or good fortune, right? But it's hard work, a lot of sacrifices, and it took a toll on you as well, hey? Your family, I'm guessing, through it. I think in closing now, we've been online for about an hour. In closing now, after Square Feet, it did not everything you guys wanted to do materialize. You exit the sister company. And yeah, you learned a lot, like you said, and you're implementing it. I think in closing, what next for Sapin, right? So, or for your life, do you see yourself in Sapin long term? Where's your headspace in your entrepreneurial journey? Are you starting something else?
So I think my main focus is definitely still Sapin, because there's still a lot I want to do in Sapin. And I still want to bring solutions, tech solutions, into the Sapin environment for the benefit of members. The one thing I want to create more for the benefit of members is deal flow. How do we get more deal flow for the members? Because remember, everything we do at Sapin must be result driven. There's no point doing courses, attending workshops, not doing anything. So everything I do, every product I create at Sapin, every event I have, is how do I create engagement and how do I get results from it? Not for me, for them. So, Dan, for the next few years, I've got no plan on leaving Sapin. I feel I want to take Sapin to the next level, not just in South Africa. We're having conversations of your Zambia, Zimbabwe, Botswana, getting those guys to come into the SAPA network in South Africa to get into commercial property, industrial property, and invest more in South Africa. So my plan is to go, how do I add value to our current clients, our members? What can I do? What can I give them that's going to add value? How can I help them get more deal flow? How can I give them tech solutions to help them analyze deals, to help them manage their deals. So, Dan, that's going to take me a good few years, eh? And then for myself, keep investing in property. We need to refinance, the buzz that we're at. We still got to refinance, slow journey. Once I've got the other property in Hurleyvale, once I've sorted those two properties, I'll then be looking for my next deal, but I don't want to buy anything just yet. As you know, I've got a hell of a lot on my plate right now, and I'm still juggling with the kids, getting to rugby games, getting to football games, and that's the balance that often entrepreneurs don't have. Is, it's all work, 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 but you can't forget about the kids. You can't forget about yourself. You've got to find time for yourself. You've got to find time for your kids. So a big thing I've taken out of this whole journey is force yourself to find balance. If you don't find balance, you get sick. If you don't find balance, you get anxiety. If you don't find balance, you quit. If you find balance and you're going to gym, you're meditating, you're reading, you're attending development workshops for yourself, and then you are working hard, you are coming with new ideas. It's like that whole, you have to get things rolling for yourself, right? You've got to find, as soon as you find the balance, you get stuck, and that's when things go wrong.
Geez, that's beautiful. So, ladies and gents, this was episode 1 of Beyond the Deal. So, Andrew, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Dan.
Brother, extremely inspirational. Learned so much, huh? And a lot of things I didn't even know. Do you want to leave us with one advice for anyone that is watching, that is going through business? Just last piece of advice.
Yeah, I think for me, Dan, and I see it all the time, hey, there's nothing that's more powerful than consistency with the right direction. Because motivation, if you don't have consistency and direction, you'll be motivated today, but you won't be motivated tomorrow. So if you find direction and you feel happy with that direction and you're just consistent, when things aren't going well, when things aren't happening, success is around the corner, they say, right? And often that's when people quit. So just for all of you guys out there in your property portfolio, you're feeling despondent, but property is the way forward. You should be investing in property. You're going to be doing more, and just be consistent. Just don't give up. Reach out, ask people for help. Come to SAP and Andrew, I'm feeling demotivated. Andrew, I don't know if I'm on the right path. And Dan, sometimes people do come to me and I say, you are on the right path. You've only been doing this for 6 months. Maybe change what you're doing slightly, but the direction is right. Just be consistent and never give up.
Geez, thank you so much, Mr. Andrew Walker. Thank you, ladies and gents. Before I do close the session, as I said, so this was the first episode of Beyond the Deal, where I'm talking to some of my coaches, my mentors, some people that are inspiring me, and I'm bringing their stories to you. So if there's any other investor, whether any player, developer, if they are in the property space and you want to hear me interview them, please drop their names in the comment section down below. But the Beyond the Deal was created to highlight stories that are that other South Africans need to be hearing in the property space, and it is part of the Investor of the Year. So you are joining me right now because of the Investor of the Year. And just to share with you, last week we had round 1 judging, where there was 3 individuals judged, which was Nyasha, Mr. Moses, as well as Robert. So, ladies and gents, I'd like to announce who's going forward to round 2 from these 3. And I'm super excited to announce that all 3 of them will be going forward to the next round, to round 2 Investor of the Year. So there's still more round 1 coming. If you are interested in joining the Investor of the Year awards, ladies and gents, go to our website. There are different categories, from the beginner category, intermediate category, most growth category, big leagues categories, and subcategories. We do want to hear your stories. We do want to hear more about you. And all the work you're doing in the property space. But for myself, ladies and gents, see you next week for more round 1 judging, where we're having more individuals judge their deals. And share this podcast with your friends, your loved ones, and I'll see you at the next